Tim Ferriss said in his book, The 4-Hour Work Week, "I am prepared to do battle for a dream that's worth dreaming." Welcome to McBain Moments. Alright, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the manor. Make sure you take a moment and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. I am prepared to do battle for a dream that's worth dreaming. What are your dreams? What is it you really want out of life? What are the things that you do all of the grind for? Do you even remember what they are? Do you remember what you set out to do whenever you graduated from high school? Or if you're not there yet, if you haven't graduated from high school yet, what is it that you are working toward? And you can say, well, I want to get into a good college or I want to get a good job, but really you have to have something more specific than that, because just a good job, that's incredibly vague. You know, is a good job a dream worth dreaming? Well, to a certain extent it is. But define a good job? Define what it is that you consider to be a good job. Define what it is you consider to be a good life. Because if you can't define what it is that is a good life to you, you're never going to find it. You're just going to accept and, oh, this must be the good life. This must be what I can get. You're going to settle. Without that definition, without that clear, concrete set of goals in mind, you aren't going to ever achieve it. You're just going to think that, oh, this must have been what I thought of. Well, it's not. Because you never thought anything. So, how can you do battle for a dream worth dreaming if you haven't come up with the dream? And really, I think that's the biggest problem that most people have. You know, we live in a society of people who are largely purposeless. We are without reason. And I don't mean reason in the classical age of reason sense. We've lost our reason for being. We've lost our ability to define what we wish to be. Because that's what life is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about deciding what we want to be and then working day after day after day at accomplishing, at becoming what we want to be. And we're all guilty of it. I'm as guilty of it as anyone. You know I've got a set of goals that I've written down, and I constantly work toward them to a certain extent, but I don't really have as concrete a picture of what I want to be yet at 36. And it occurs to me that is almost become a pathology for us. Understanding that I don't work in medicine, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but realistically, it's really become a pathology. We are pathologically incapable of defining what we want out of ourselves and out of our lives. So how do we resolve this? We have to start practicing. We have to start practicing coming up with that image. And maybe Tim Ferriss, who I quoted earlier, came up with an idea, and I like this idea. I think this is a good start. You can't really define what you want to be without defining what you definitely don't want to be. And he suggests write down the nightmare. Write down the absolute worst case scenario. This is your absolute worst nightmare scenario for where your life is. You know, we've all been through nightmare scenarios, but we're talking the worst. Like if you're at this point, you've got nowhere else down to go. Write it down. Make it a concrete image. And what this does is it gives you a place to stay away from. We are much more motivated by fear than we ever are by desire, by desire. So as long as you know what your fear is, and it's written down, and it's concrete, and you have that imagery in your head, you know what you're running away from. Okay. Now, when you turn away from that nightmare, and you refocus your vision going the opposite direction, what is it you're looking at? And you may not be able to see it all. I mean, it's a long-ass road. You go up there, and you might be able to see to the horizon line, and we all know that that's not the final destination because the road goes over the horizon. Or maybe there's some mountains in the way and some woods that you have to navigate. Those are all the difficulties in life and the the trouble spots that you're eventually going to have to navigate, the obstacles. There might be a city in there where you get to mingle with folks, that maybe that's your tribe. But realistically, you need to be able to write down, if you can write down in concrete fashion what your nightmare is, you should be able to take the time to think about and formulate and write down and create a concrete image of what your dream is. And make sure it's a dream worth dreaming. Make sure there is a purpose behind it, a reason for it, a desire for it. And that might be something that's totally arbitrary. And for some people, that's fine. For a lot of people, that's fine. Is it fine for you? If it is, great. If it's not, you need to work on it and figure out what your dream worth dreaming is. And then comes the hard part, because this is the hardest part. You have to have the courage to fight for it. You have to be willing to do battle. You have to be willing to do battle with your friends. You have to be willing to do battle with your family. You have to be willing to do battle with your boss, with everyone in your support group, even more so than those who are out there to oppose you. Because the people who are going to cause you the most trouble aren't the people who are out to stop you, because there aren't going to be that many of them. I mean, yeah, there are going to be a couple jealous people who are big things, who are going to be like, well, I never got that far, therefore you shouldn't either. And those people do exist, and they're terrible people. They're absolutely terrible people. They're almost as bad as the people who say, well, you can't because of. You'll never make it because of. Because the people who say you'll never make it because of think they're using logic when they're really just allowing mediocrity to rule them. And they want you to do the same. The people who say, I couldn't, therefore you shouldn't, are worse, because that is worse than jealousy. That's spite. Never let either of these groups stop you. And your family's going to do it, and they're not going to intend it. They're going to be like, why are you working so hard? Why is it you are so focused on this? You need to relax, take a vacation. Sometimes vacations are necessary. Recharging the batteries are critical. But they're not going to understand why it is you're driven. You need to be driven if you're going to dream the dream that's worth dreaming. And these are the people you're going to have to do battle with. But it doesn't have to be like... And it might just be walking them through the logic and helping them to understand. Be prepared to do battle for the dream worth dreaming. And never give up. Never give up on the dream that you dream. This has been a McBain moment.